There is a tiara sitting inside Buckingham Palace right now, locked in a velvet case, catalogued, numbered, waiting for the next state banquet, the next royal dinner, the next occasion where Queen Camilla will lift it from its box and place it on her head as if it has always been hers. And most people who see it will think, how beautiful, how regal, how perfectly it suits her. But there are people in those rooms who go very quiet when they see it, because they remember another woman wearing it, a younger woman, a woman who didn't choose that life but tried desperately to survive it with her dignity intact. The last time that tiara appeared in a public room before Diana died, she was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laugh you can't fake, with the Spencer tiara at her crown and 6 weeks left to live. She had no idea. None of us did. Tonight, we are going inside the story of that tiara, that night, and the very uncomfortable question that nobody inside the palace will ever answer out loud. What does it mean when you place a dead woman's jewels on the head of the woman she blamed for destroying her marriage? Stay with me. To understand why the Spencer tiara matters, you have to understand something most people get wrong about Diana. She was not just a Windsor. She never fully became one. The Spencer family is one of the oldest aristocratic families in England, older than the current royal family by several generations. Diana grew up at Althorp, a vast estate in Northamptonshire, surrounded by centuries of Spencer history. She had a pedigree, a lineage, an identity entirely separate from the House of Windsor, and the Spencer tiara was part of that identity. It was assembled in the early 20th century from a collection of Spencer family jewels, gifts, heirlooms, pieces accumulated across generations. Unlike the stiff architectural tiaras of the Crown collection, the Spencer tiara has something different about it, something softer, more romantic, more alive. Diana wore it for the first time publicly on the 29th of July, 1981, her wedding day. That image became one of the defining photographs of the 20th century. A 20-year-old girl in a cloud of ivory silk, the Spencer tiara at her crown, walking down the aisle of St. Paul's Cathedral toward a future that the whole world was convinced was a fairy tale. Diana knew something different. She told her biographer, Andrew Morton, that on the morning of her wedding, she had been trembling so violently that a lady-in-waiting had to step in and place the tiara on her head. Not from nerves, not from excitement, from what she described as a desperate, overwhelming sense of doom. She said she felt like she was walking to the guillotine. And yet, over the 16 years that followed, the Spencer tiara was transformed in Diana's mind. It stopped being a symbol of that terrible morning. It became a symbol of survival, of self. Every time she wore it, she was saying something without words. This piece came from my family, not his, not theirs, mine. I am still a Spencer. Whatever they do to me, they cannot take that. By the summer of 1997, Diana's life had changed beyond recognition. The divorce from Charles had been finalized the previous year. The palace had stripped her of her Royal Highness title, a move widely seen as punitive and small. She was no longer a working royal. She was, in the palace's careful language, a private individual, and she was more powerful than at any point in her life. Her campaign against landmines had become a global phenomenon. Images of her in Angola, kneeling in the dust, holding the hands of children who had lost limbs, walking deliberately through a minefield in a visor and flak jacket, were reshaping international policy. Politicians who had dismissed her as a celebrity were watching her move governments with a single photograph. She was untouchable, she was free, and she was done being managed. In June 1997, she attended a gala at Christie's auction house in London, a glittering, high-profile event, one of her last major public appearances in England. She wore the Spencer tiara. People who were in that room that night have spoken over the years about something different in her presence. She was not performing. She was not managing the room the way she had learned to do over 15 years of royal life. She was simply there, present, warm, real. One guest described her as looking like a woman who had finally, after a very long time, been allowed to breathe. Another said simply, she seemed happy. 6 weeks later, on the 31st of August 1997, Diana died in a tunnel in Paris. After her death, the Spencer Tiara returned to Althorp. It belongs to the Spencer family, not the crown, not the palace, not the House of Windsor. Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, is its custodian. But while that tiara went back to where it belonged, something else was happening. Camilla Parker Bowles, the woman Diana had described, in her own recorded words, as the third person in her marriage, was slowly, carefully, strategically being brought in from the cold. The press were briefed, public appearances were managed, the narrative shifted from scandal to acceptance, and eventually Camilla became Charles's wife, then Princess of Wales, and finally Queen Consort. And then people started noticing the jewels. At state banquets, at royal engagements, at formal dinners. Camilla began wearing pieces from the crown collection that Diana had also worn. Crown jewels cycle between royal women. They are institutional property, not personal. But the optics were brutal, and the public has a long memory. The question that began circulating, quietly then louder, was whether any of this was deliberate, whether dressing Camilla in pieces associated with Diana was part of a broader palace strategy to normalize her presence, to overwrite the image. The palace has never answered that question. They never will. But here is the one detail that stands out above everything else. The Spencer tiara has never been on Camilla's head, not once, and the reason is simple and absolute. It is not theirs to offer. It belongs to Diana's family, and Diana's family has not offered it. That silence is its own kind of answer. There is a photograph from that Christie's Gala in June 1997. Diana, head thrown back, completely unguarded, laughing at something just out of frame. Her eyes are bright, her shoulders are relaxed. The Spencer tiara sits at her crown, catching the chandelier light above her, and she looks genuinely, completely like herself. Not a princess, not an institution, not a symbol. A woman, 36 years old, alive. She had her whole second act in front of her. The campaigns, the causes, the children growing up. A life finally on her own terms. She had no idea it was almost over. The Windsors have their vaults, their continuity, their extraordinary ability to manage history and move forward without ever fully accounting for what happened. But they do not have the Spencer tiara. They cannot catalogue it, or loan it, or place it on whoever comes next. It sits at Althorp, among Diana's things, among the evidence of a life that burned very bright and ended far too soon. And it will stay there, because some things, some jewels, some stories, some pieces of a person cannot be managed, rehabilitated, or reassigned. Some things belong to the person who loved them, and this one always will.